Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashaye. My column will be read to you shortly.
If you see mommy water, if you see mommy water.
The first time I saw Victor Waifu perform in the flesh was at the State House in Lagos a few years ago. He did not have the vim and zest of youth, but the talent remained like palm wine in ferment or like slow-burning flame. He stung and rode some of his vintage familiars like Jerome and Guitar Boy. And the crowd, ever highbrow and starchy, abandoned its patrician airs and plowed back to the old days of their youth and loosed themselves like boys and girls in ecstasy. They belted out soulful choruses with the master, but gloom fell as the man departed the microphone. I was to meet him in person not long after when I addressed the convocation of the Igbinedium University in Okada and was a guest of former Governor Lucky Igbinedium for lunch. Waifu had his meal not far from me, and we spoke about his songs, and I contrived the melody of his songs the same way a mechanic walked the threads of a suit. His face always had the light of a boy, the entertainer's eternal playfulness. He was about 78, and he did not bear any of the creams of age, not in his steps or voice or even mind. He enjoyed the briar of a 70-year-old, and he seemed in all-round fine fettle. I told him I wanted to come over to Benin before long to interview him, and he said I should call him and he would give me a tour of his museum. The project was one of those you cherish and postpone, and you keep postponing because you cherish, and the hope of its spectacle of fulfillment is like a treasure you preserve in a special case in the recesses of your room. The expectation of use never happens but never wanes, but you rejoice in the hope. One day, you find out it is no longer there, and you regret that you should have enjoyed your boon while it was around. What seemed solid was, after all, like a soap bubble. When he entered his car and was driven away, I waved, but unbeknownst to me, it was a goodbye more permanent than a wave of the hand. So, death snatched away the icon. Death, always the sneaky conman. Waifu's life was a melody, but we cannot but feel threnody as he departs us. Waifu has a special place in the pantheon in our hearts. He now, as a poet once wrote, belongs to the ages.
Public affairs analyst Chike Chude joins me to analyze recent developments in the country, particularly violence in the Katsina state, as well as the sack of 2 ministers by the Muhammadu Buhari administration. Okay, Chike, it's a long time. You're welcome to this show.
It's a pleasure.
There have been a number of developments. Shall we start with Katsina? The governor of Katsina, Masari, announced that they were going to block the highways and close markets and so on in order to stop the forays from the forests, from these bandits. What do you make of that decision?
Well, that is the decision of a man that is at his wit's end. You know, a man that is whose back is against the wall and doesn't seem to know what to do.
Yes.
Obviously, you can see what the decisions he's taking as a result of the recent killings in his state.
Yes.
This is a man that had previously talked about the need to perhaps accommodate these people, provide some kind of a social infrastructure for them, with the hope that they are going to turn over a new leaf, and instead of becoming social deviants, become good citizens. And perhaps I think some of these politicians read the psychology of these people wrongly. Because a criminal element is a criminal element. There are certain things that constitute the criminality in a person, and this is built over the years.
Yeah.
So sometimes some of these measures do not appeal in any way to them. So this particular position that is being taken by the governor is something that I'm not so sure that the governor feels that it is the best solution at this particular point in time.
It's experimental.
Yes, thank you, it's experimental. But for want of not doing anything, you know, he's just trying any of these things to see whether perhaps it could work. And then if it does work, then he would emphasize more on them. I mean, the issue of movements of Okada bikes.
Yes.
We know that these people, that is their favorite mode of transportation.
Yes.
And if that can be stopped, at least at certain hours of the day, the buying of meat in the market and all that. So these are just measures that he is hoping would help in doing the trick.
Now, he came up with a decision sometime, earlier this year, saying that, okay, what we want to do now is that we want to accommodate these people. They are human beings like us. Let us get market stalls for them. Let us give them homes. And he offered money as well of saying, okay, let us use amnesty, as it were. Well, he came up with his own amnesty program. Why did you think that failed?
Don't forget, I mean, it's not the first time it's happening in the north.
Yes.
We've had such thinking amongst the governors.
That in Kano.
Of course, don't forget that one of the states was in Zamfara states,
Yes.
where vigilantes had been set up and seemed to be working effectively against these bandits. And then the bandits gave the governor an ultimatum that the vigilantes must be disbanded forthwith. And the governors complied, and the vigilantes were disbanded. And so you can imagine the disappointment on the part of the vigilantes who were already staking their life to protect the community. And then the people they are protecting the community against now give instruction to the government, and the government decides to, to follow that. So these are some of the things. And so obviously the governor has realized that attempt to accommodate these people, that's why I was saying that they are reading the psychology of these people very wrongly.
Yeah.
These people are criminals. These people are already steeped in their ways, and so they are not going to change overnight. These people make millions by the day. They make millions. They mean monies that they can never earn working in any government agency in the country. They earn it by the day. 1 or 2, 3 kidnaps, and then the government jumps, to their beck and call. And then
In Zamfara, they abducted students again.
it's the only thing that would be strange in the country right now is to go 1 week without any new story, without any form of violence, without any kidnap, or without the pillaging of communities and so on, especially up north. So these are some of the things that we're seeing. So obviously, the soft approach has not worked.
Yeah, the Sultan himself said that the level of violence going on is even so high that a lot of it is underreported.
You see, if there's something I know about this Sultan, he has not handled this matter with kids' gloves. He has not been silent about it.
At all.
He has been making this complaint for a very long time. In fact, about a year ago, he said if we're not careful, we're going to have another movement that will be much more deadly than the movements that we have on ground right now. So it is like he's hamstrung.
Even the minister of aviation, rail, Amechi himself said, we should be careful that day in Abuja, one day they will just come and drive them out of town. And it's a cry.
Again,
it's like the cry of the insider.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So I think at the back of these people's minds. Maybe somehow, when we think that consciences have been deadened by the splendor and opulence of office, by the privileges of their position,
Yes.
and the appurtenances of their offices,
Yes.
you know, it's like something speaks to them and says, this thing is going to burst very soon. This bubble will burst very soon. It is not sustainable. And it must be very clear to anybody that is discerning that it can't be sustainable. 20 years ago, nobody will tell you, even the worst, you know, pessimist.
Yes.
If you were to hazard a guess about what will become of Nigeria in 2021, as bad as his pessimism might be, he would never paint a Nigeria with the kind of, the way that the country is, you know, presently manifesting itself. So they know, for those of them who want to be sober, who have their own quiet moments, we realize that this experiment has gone on too far and has become dangerous for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that it is at that moment of lucidity, that moment where his conscience, pricks him, that he makes that kind of statement, because that is the truth, that is the reality. Look at the army of unemployed. Look at the frustration of this on the streets. Look at the hopelessness. You know, it can only lead to one direction, and that is more social chaos and instability, unless you do something to arrest the situation.
Obasanjo had complained one time about this army of unemployed, that, look, we should be careful. The numbers are rising, and they will have something to do. Now, in the case of Katsina, you are shutting down the highways. You are stopping some people from transportation business. You are shutting down the market. You are closing down commerce. And people will need something to eat. They will need something to do. They have a lot of idle hands. So is it not capitulation?
No,
It looks like a solution, but it's capitulation.
No, but that is capitulation. I mean, if you look, at least for when we started experiencing acts of terrorism, the statements coming from government quarters, it's the normal statement you hear from any government official all over the world, that the terrorists want to change their ways of life.
Yes.
And that they will not allow it.
Exactly.
So what does that mean? Markets remain open. Those who go to the movies will go to the movies. The schools will not be shut down. Because when you do all of these things and you radically change the life that you're living,
the routine,
the terrorists are having their way. So you don't want to do that. But as it is now, they are the ones dictating the pace. They are the ones that will determine whether schools in the north are going to remain shut or not. Kaduna State and many other states are doing that. So it's not about wondering whether it is capitulation or not. It is capitulation. They are setting the pace. They are calling the shots. And the government is reacting to what the terrorists and the bandits and headsmen are doing in their domain. Again, you look at it, it's not as if we are very safe down south. It's not as if the political elites in the south are far, far better than what we have in the north. But the reality is that the north has been much more careless with their region, especially northern political elites have been much more careless with the education of their children for whatever reason, whether it's as a result of the feudalism that people talk about or whatever it is. You know, somewhere along the line, it should have occurred to them that you cannot keep on churning out this sea of people without hope, people, without any stake in the polity. It is dangerous for everybody, and we are seeing the danger manifest today.
Is it not, in a sense, a reckoning with the feudal system?
No, everything.
It's a reckoning with the feudal
everything
system.
eventually comes to a head. These contradictions over time will play out, and then they will manifest in various ways, and then they would increase and all that. And as these things go on, as the population increases, the frustration increases, the lack of opportunities increases, the exclusion increases, until you have a multitude of people who do not have any stake. And again, the volatility of that region, where religion also plays a dominant role, whether for good or for bad.
Yes.
You understand? So in the hands of very dangerous elements, those people become weapons.
Yes, so they become weapons.
They become weapons
against the system.
Against the system. Yes. And that is what we are seeing today.
But what we are also seeing in Katsina State is a situation in which it looks like we're acting as though we do not know where these people are.
Look, you know, there are too many contradictions that some of us are struggling, to understand, to come to terms with in the country.
Yes.
You know, a state like Nigeria, is Nigeria, have we exactly, yes, people talk about, the elements of a failed state, and some will tell you Nigeria is almost a failed state. Some will come out try to tell you it's a failed state, and they will give, the indices and all that. But the reality is, in truth, is the Nigerian state so weak that it can neither protect itself or protect its citizens? Because that is what seems to be happening. And it's not just looking at it from a wishful perspective. The state, with the spate of kidnappings, the killings all over the country, especially the north, is an indication that the state has failed. Now, has the state failed deliberately? Is it because there are certain elements of the state who are not working,
yes,
with the intention to protect the state
yes,
from internal instability? Or is it that they are doing their best and the best is simply not enough? I cannot believe that everybody, that people who should give all are giving all. People who should be in position of authority, and I'm talking about the center,
exercising it as they should.
Exercising it as they should. I think that there is a failure, of exercise, or of at that level, But beyond that again is this, and this is, one thing that also baffles me.
Yes.
We agree, or they tell us that Nigeria is under militarized in terms of the conventional military force that we have. We have maybe just about 300,000 military personnel.
Yes.
A country of around 220 to 250 million. They tell you it's simply not enough, especially a country in continuous,
Ferment.
crisis. So what do? Okay, you need to recruit people. You might not be able to do that. There are all kinds of issues, economic issues and the rest. Now you have communities whose villages are at stake. Why not get these people involved in their own security?
Exactly.
First of all, if these terrorists, for instance, are motivated by ideologies, people have made the argument that you cannot defeat an ideology easily. You understand? You have to win that person off that ideology.
Exactly.
And people have also posited that when it comes to the position of the Nigerian army, that they are not as committed as people with an ideology. So if that is the case, what does that mean? It introduces a different element. What is that element? The people who have a stake, the people who need to protect their wives and their children.
Yes.
You understand? We have a greater stake than even the terrorists.
Terrorists.
Who is being propelled by ideology.
Exactly.
Because those people are propelled by the need for existence. You understand? So they will fight, they will fight to the very end to protect their homeland, to protect themselves. But they cannot fight with empty hands. You have to equip them. You have to give them the desired training. And if you are afraid that you don't want to give them weapons, and then they might use these weapons in ways that are dangerous to everybody, inimical, then what do? Embed them with people who have that experience, with the military, with the police, and so on, and then give them the requisite training to protect their communities. And I will tell you, they will do a much better job than even the military. Yes. But you saw that in Benue State, when the governor at the time was asking for arms for them to defend themselves. You also have it even in Katsina State and some other parts of the north.
In fact, Katsina is having its own version of Omoteku now. That's what they are doing.
Yes, but Omoteku is just a joke. The concept is good. It is a fantastic thing. It's part of a blend of what I'm talking about. But an Omoteku, look, the president is a military person.
But the one he's doing in the north, in Katsina now, is Amotekun with arms. The one we have here is Amotekun with arms.
Exactly. So I have not even been apprised of the fact that they are armed. And that is what should happen. So if you have an Omoteku here or any other part of the south, it must be armed. Because the people they are going up against, the president is a military man. He knows the danger. He knows how lethal, an AK-47 can be. And he knows that a man who is armed with bows and arrows stands no chance with somebody with AK-47.
Exactly.
So why would the president, for instance, if he's confronted with that kind of scenario, not, expeditiously give approval to ensure that people can best protect themselves, give them these equipments, and then bed members of maybe the Nigerian Armed Forces with them to also help in guiding them on the use of this equipment.
Now, the other topic is the sacking of the two ministers. It was quite a shock to me when I saw it that Buhari sacks his minister. Buhari never sacks anybody. But these are two interesting parts of his agenda: power and agriculture, rural.
Yes, again, there is a popular saying in Nigeria, not in my character. This is not in the president's character to sack people. And at the best of times, we have to beg him and cajole him, almost blackmail him into removing service ministers when they're not effective. It is so clear to everybody that something has to be done. The president never seems to have any reason why something should be done.
But interestingly, there was no agitation to sack any minister.
So for this one, something obviously happened.
Yes.
If you read the statement from the presidency through his special advisor, he talks about Femi Adesina. He talks about an independent body that was set up for the purpose of looking at the performances of the ministers and their ministries. And then, the fact that sometimes they also have to simulate their performances, and all that, and they realized that there was a gap and a weakness, and they needed to fill that gap and then plug the weakness, or block the weakness and all that. So that is what the government said. Then the question I asked, the implication is that these people were found one thing. If they are found one thing, in what sense? They were found one thing, obviously, from a point of view, I want to speculate, of incompetence. Or could it be that they did away with the resources of the state? I don't know.
Okay.
It could be any of these things, some form of malfeasance or not.
Okay.
But if it is incompetence, I do not know this president for sacking people for incompetence. And that's why I find it hard, unless some other...
It's very hard to get to the bottom of the story, but we know that power has been epileptic, has not worked, and even the issue of rural development and agriculture has been a moot point, and part of it is due to insecurity. That you cannot, even if many people who are farmers cannot get to the farms. Those who have been able to farm cannot get their crops or whatever they have produced across.
Unless, if you look at
the highways,
if you look at the two ministers, that of the Minister of Agriculture, just like you said, should be given a pass. If it is about him not being able to deliver, there are obvious reasons why he might not be able to deliver. The insecurity situation has been a major issue, and the banditry has been a major issue with regards to, that has affected the agricultural sector.
Yes.
That of power is a completely different thing. We don't know what is going on. But like I said, and I'm emphasizing it, that if it is as a result of incompetence, that would be a new one for me. Because we have seen, and it's not just about, it's not just because, there is, we don't have enough power in the country. Government has always rationalized away even things that people see. Empirically verifiable situations in the country that have gone so bad. Government has always come forward to tell us that these things are not as bad as they are. So they determine what is bad. So we can't sit down here and say it is, the electricity is epileptic, even if we know it's epileptic. They can always rationalize it.
They've done well. Yes, they can always rationalize it. So that's an interesting, but I know that the minister who was there before, Fashola, had always said that the job of the minister is policy, and that the agencies themselves, he had no power to force the agencies to do what they're supposed to do, which means that the bulk was on the table of the president. which is how I analyze it. Because the minister cannot go to some of the discourse and so on. They don't report direct to him. That's the problem.
Yes, I agree. But the ministers approve the monies that go to the
policies. The policies.
But
that is where your hand stops.
Even when the discourse are misbehaving, you understand, and you think that a government should exert some kind of punitive action against them, they ask for money. Almost blackmailing the government. Exactly. And then government, ends up capitulating also.
Yes,
so
but the agencies are the ones from what I analyze, the agencies are the ones, the agencies under the Ministry of Power are so technically covered or protected or sheltered from the minister.
Don't also forget that there is a system of graft, there's a system of corruption, there's a system of incompetence.
Yes.
All of these things are working
tied
together.
together.
And it goes beyond the agencies, sometimes as far as the ministries and even the presidency.
Yes.
So people who
That's
should
what-
do
that's
something
it. It's
to
so-
shake
it's-
up,
it's so
to shake up the,
convoluted.
yeah, it's so
It's so
convoluted. That is it.
convoluted.
Yes, that is it.
Thank you. Thank you again, Chike Chude, for coming again to this program.
Well, it's-
Always enlightening
Thank
and
you. Thank you. It's a
cool-headed.
pleasure, always.
Thank you. Just before the program ends, this is my poem in honor of Leah Sharibo.
The other day, Leah, women your age in IDP camps, starving and neglected, picked leftover grains like Lazarus from sands from the market earth to feed self and kids. You probably don't because your man picked you from your sands of time.
Thank you for watching today's program. You can catch up with my published column on www.samomashai.com. And until next time, be good.